Good morning, everyone. Small business owner, alderman, firefighter, and first responder Kirk Anderson is my very special guest today, Thursday, April 9th, 2020. I'm Ben Dryden. You're watching DrydenWire Live. Special thank you to all of our guests for coming on this week. So far, we had Monday, we had business owner and 10th Senate candidate Cherie Link. Tuesday, we had Barron County Sheriff Chris Fitzgerald, and yesterday, 25th District Senator Janet Bewley. As a reminder, you can watch all of our shows, not just those, but all the ones last week, on our website at DrydenWire.com if you didn't get a chance to watch them live. Also, make sure you come back here tomorrow morning as I'll be chatting with Wausau School Board President, Ho-Chunk Supreme Court Associate Justice and Democratic candidate in the 7th city race, Tricia Zunker. Lastly, we received a lot of emails asking when my mother, Diane Dryden, her becoming very popular Diane's Kitchen, no, it's not a cooking show, when those episodes will be returning, and it looks like we are going to be resuming those either next week or the week after, so look for the announcement soon. So, all right. So, Kirk, my man, how are you, sir?
Doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Well, yeah. I would say congratulations on winning the... you're running for mayor in St. Croix Falls, but of course we don't know if you actually won or not yet, so...
Yeah, the election did take place, thankfully, and went very well in our town of about 2,500 people. So it's a smaller town, nothing like Milwaukee or Madison, but we did have a very successful turnout. No election results until Monday evening, and that's when they will start counting those ballots. So we're looking forward to hearing what happened.
Well, I talked to a local county clerk or an area county clerk and asked, is there preliminary numbers or anything that you give out? And I was advised no, and actually it's a felony to share any of that stuff. I'm like, okay, sorry, I was just curious. But I also asked, if you look at Polk County, Washburn, Barron, Sawyer, Burnett, Rusk, that's kind of like our coverage area. Do you expect a lot of absentee ballots after Tuesday's election? And my understanding was not really. So I think by the time Tuesday comes, Monday, April 13th at 4 o'clock, I wouldn't be surprised if it's shortly after 4 o'clock we finally get all those numbers. I don't think they're going to have to compile a ton of them, and we won't know until like 10 o'clock at night. What do you think?
Well, I think it depends on if they can open them at 4 o'clock and start counting, or if they will need to, if they could do it earlier. Oh. The typical end of the night count does take a couple hours to do. They have observers that monitor and make sure that all the votes are counted properly, and so that does take some time. The issue that really kind of made it confusing is the lawsuit that happened with the federal judge that extended voting until the 13th, and then that was overruled by the Supreme Court, and all votes had to be cast and postmarked by election night. Right. But then any that were still in the mail, but presumably if the post office does their job, they should be there, even today or by tomorrow.
That'd be nice. So in full disclosure, I have known you for a few years, and I have the utmost respect for you, Kirk, as a human being, as a father, as a husband, as a business owner, your faith. It has been a privilege getting to know you over the last few years. So I hope the best for you. I think St. Croix Falls would be absolutely, would benefit greatly if you were the mayor. And if not, I know that you're still going to do everything that you're doing. So on that note, you wear a lot of hats. So first of all, you're a business owner, you're a first responder, removing you're running for a political officer now, but you currently are an alderman, right? You're in the city council. Right. So there's a whole bunch. So let's just start with the business owner. What business do you run?
So I have a business that is a technology web design company. It's Interactive Business Solutions. I've been in business since 2002 and have been in the city of St. Croix Falls downtown on Main Street since 2008. That business has allowed me to work a mile from home. And previous to that, I worked in the cities and commuted down to the St. Paul area. And when I took the shift from working in the cities and started my own company, I was very close to home and enjoyed that, and was able to participate in a lot of the things that are also hats I wear, like being a firefighter, first responder, and being on the city council.
Sure.
So I help small businesses, medium businesses, and large businesses with their web and graphic design, with their social media marketing, and video production.
Okay. What have you done now with Safer at Home? Has your business had to adjust, and if so, how?
Yeah, absolutely. My business is in a office with other businesses, and the other businesses are essential employees. So they are still working, but they don't have people coming and going. They're financial institution.
Okay.
Investments. And so the doors are locked, and I get to come to my office and work on the websites and all the video production, and do that within a very safe environment.
Sure.
I'm considered essential because I work on communications and IT as well. But I haven't been doing a lot of that. Everything I do is remotely, which is really nice.
Mm-hmm.
I work from home when I need to. And in the free time that I've had, I've readjusted my studio for doing some additional video work, installed a big green screen like you have on behind you. And we're
what do you mean it's a green screen? What are you talking about? No, that's really my wall right behind me.
Yeah. And it looks awesome. So some fun things like that. And, I think the biggest thing is just communicating with people. So I'm helping businesses get started on their ability to communicate with clients and with customers, and producing sales and things like that.
When you have talked to a lot of these clients during this time, what are they, if they've, not your current clients, but new ones, so over the last month, 3-4 weeks, right? Have they come to you, and when they did, what were they asking for? Because I'm assuming it had to be because of the coronavirus in their business. Are you getting different messages when you get the first phone call now versus 3 months ago? Different conversation?
Yeah, most of them are asking if I'm open. And yes, we're open, but you would have to knock on the window to get in. It is a different type of business model right now. A lot of small businesses are not able to operate, and that's really hard to see as a business owner on a main street, to walk down the road and just kind of see the signs in the windows. And those of them that are operating are not operating in person. And so they're asking for help getting webcams and software set up that they can securely have conversations. They're looking for ways to advertise and let people know that they're still open. So for a lot of people, because I produce videos, I've had a lot of interest in online commercials for Facebook,
mm-hmm.
and putting together ads, things of that nature. And for others, they just are looking for advice. One of the things that I have the privilege of working with is experts in a lot of different fields. And one of my good friends, Bill Teese, who's a business consultant, and I put together a show.
Kirk and Bill show.
Yeah, the Kirk
I've watched
and Bill
that.
show.
That's a great show. It's so informational.
Yeah, so we're just telling people about what to expect with this environment that we're now living through, from a business standpoint and from a marketing standpoint. And so you can find that on Facebook. Just look for Kirk and Bill show. And,
you have your own Facebook page now. I didn't know that. Last I saw it, because I haven't looked this week. It's been kind of a busy week. Last I saw, I think it was last week, and it was just on I thought it was just on your Kirk Anderson Facebook page.
Yeah. As with all fun things that start, it started as just kind of let's do a show. I'd actually been helping you with some of your video production and setting up the same system here to test it, because you live so far away from me. But
well, not that far. But yeah.
Yeah. So coming to your office is a lot easier now with video, but
Yeah.
our systems are very similar. We use the same software, obviously, and so I used Bill as a test example,
The guinea
and
pig, got it.
let's talk business and this pandemic. And
Mm.
surprisingly, we've had a lot of really good feedback, and we've had some pretty good guests, and we have some more lined up coming
Awesome.
up in the future.
No, I love it. And by the way, I need to talk to you later today sometime because it's time that we may invest in a new camera. We have been running our DrydenWire live shows 3 years ago. We started this with just a webcam, and we have like 4 webcams. Now we've tried different ones, but I think it's time we actually step it up a little bit. So I'll be calling you this afternoon.
Yeah, oddly enough, if you wanted to buy a new webcam, you'd probably pay as much as you would for a high-end camera.
I know. I looked up like the one I bought was a Logitech C920 or something. And I think at the time, like a week after this all hit, they were selling for like $250, $300. Like,
Yeah,
oh, I should totally sell it for that. But I couldn't in good conscience because that's stupid. I'm not going to upsell people. That's dumb.
Right.
Yeah. So you are a first responder.
Yep.
So you have a unique perspective as well on the coronavirus and the impact. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so I'm a first responder for the St. Croix Falls Fire Department and a firefighter. So a lot of the things that are going on right now, oddly enough, things are pretty mild for the fire department in general. We don't get a lot of calls. Now, we all knock on wood when we say that because that's when the pager starts going off. So sorry, guys. But the reality is we live in a great small town and we don't have a lot of those issues, but we do have a lot of medical calls. And as a first responder, we are dispatched with the ambulance a lot of times and will, in some instances, be there first, hence first responder. In our town, our ambulance is in our town, and so we generally get there about the same time. But with this coronavirus scare, there is a considerable amount of extra effort that we put into being safe. And so we'll go in with not just the normal gloves and PPE, we are now wearing masks and being very careful with what we touch and how we dispose of things. And just knowing that, potentially this could be an issue and we have to really take care of ourselves and take care of our patients.
Yeah, what have you seen over, because you're in Polk County, I probably should have brought that before. Obviously, I think St. Croix Falls running for mayor, that should have given it away, but the businesses over there, how are they doing in your area?
The businesses in our area some are open for business and some are working remotely and still open. And then there are a lot of the shops that just have to close their doors because of the order. And that's a financial burden and a stress on them. A lot of our restaurants are still open, but only open for carryout, pickup. And some of them have just had to close their doors because they don't have the ability to do that as a model. And
let's face it, a lot of businesses have had to close because they were not deemed essential, but we're also not given the opportunity to try to adjust. I'm just saying.
Well, it was literally hours that we were given notice on this whole thing. And so for some people, they got up, started going to work, and then were told they're not essential and had to determine whether or not they were going to go in. And it's a changing type of thing. There's a lot of frustration. There's a lot of fear. And it's important to stay focused on being positive and looking for ways to pivot and adjust. And some businesses are better able to do that than others, which is one of the reasons that Bill and I started that show, was because we want to help businesses see where their pivot points are and help them make that adjustment. And if they're not able to pivot, at least take advantage of some of the offerings from the Small Business Association as far as being able to protect themselves and continue their business on into the future, so that when we finally get through this, they can reopen their doors and be, financially able to continue.
What did you think of the election of this last 6 days with this whole starting, I think, on Friday when Evers announced for a special session, then Saturday they gaveled in, they gaveled out, and then what happened on Monday, and then what happened Monday again, and then Monday again. What do you think about all that?
I thought it was crazy. You know, you sit and you run a campaign, and so obviously I've been campaigning for several months, and a lot of the campaigns that are out there for small towns are self-funded. So we can receive donations, and I've received some small donations here and there, and people have helped me to buy signs and things like that. But a lot of this effort is it's just me. I don't have a campaign crew. My wife is very supportive, but we're not able to go knock door to door. We're not able to have a lot of interaction with people. And so for the last month, we're really relying on getting it out on Facebook and putting it out there. To have it changed in the last minute, as everything is, you've spent your money. You know, I'm a small business owner. We're in the middle of a pandemic. I don't want to spend any more money. To have them say, now we're going to push it out till June, it was just a sinking, you know, a lot of frustration.
I didn't look at it from that point of view.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah, it was frustrating, but, you know, I had confidence that this was going to probably be overturned. I knew that the legislature kind of owns the ability to manage the elections, and that the governor didn't have the authority to do that. And so I see it from both ways. You know, perhaps he's looking for ways to protect the citizens, which is admirable, but this is the United States, and we're built on elections, and we have to elect our leaders. Many municipalities and all over the state don't have provisions in place for the what if for a pandemic. So then the question is, if a mayor or an alderman's term expires and they don't have an election, who's in charge?
Right.
Do we just let them continue to be mayor for another 60 days, or does there have to be some way to avoid anarchy? And so those were questions that everybody was trying to figure out if the election went till mid to the end.
Yeah, someone had asked me after one of our shows, I think end of last week. Well, shouldn't say asked me. They told me that I was very pessimistic. And I said, no, actually, I think I'm an optimist. And it reminded me of this, there was this joke, and I can't remember the setup for it. But essentially, a pessimist and an optimist were next to each other. Something was happening, and the pessimist turned to the optimist and said, things just can't get any worse. And the optimist said, oh, yes, it can. So I'm an optimist. I just assume it's going to get worse because that's just how it goes, and it usually does.
Yeah, well, I think it went to the Supreme Court, both the Wisconsin Supreme Court and the United States Supreme Court in both these issues, and both courts overturned and reversed those rulings. There was still an issue with it going to April 13th, but I think it's really important to realize how big of a deal this was. This made national news, and I think it made national news for a good reason. Yeah. This would have been the test case potentially, or the ruling that would have been used for every future governor or mayor or whoever leader that decided to cancel an election for whatever reason. And in the United States, the bedrock of our ability to transfer power is elections, free elections. And, you know, we can't cancel elections. That's just a very important thing. We've had elections through wars, we've had elections through other pandemics, and to cancel it and say we're just going to leave things as they are for even 2 months is just not acceptable. So I was happy to see that got overturned.
Me too. So, well, seriously, I really am. I wish it wouldn't happen in the 11th hour, because unfortunately I saw a lot of people on Tuesday, on Election Day, on other people's pages. Someone will say, make sure you get out and vote, and I would see a comment, I thought it was postponed. So I think it actually made everything a lot worse, actually, by doing it at the 11th hour. But that's a conversation for, offline or some other time. I don't know. What do you do right now? Because there is going to be some ballots that come in, absentee ballots, over the next few days. But there's probably a good likelihood that I mean, depending on how close it is, that they probably already know, or the votes that have been tallied already, and they kind of know already. What do you do from now until Monday night? Do you just pretend like, okay, I'm just going to act like I'm the mayor, or not?
Yeah, well, I'm a city council person, and so I'm an alderman, and we had a meeting last night. It was a special meeting, oddly enough, to discuss the Walmart lawsuits that are going on. We have a Walmart in St. Croix Falls, and so we had a meeting. We had a Zoom meeting. It was a closed session because we were dealing with negotiations and things like that. But we're doing business as usual as much as we can. We have canceled our city council meetings in person, but again, I've, free consulting for the city, helped the city administrator set up Zoom, and we've got it where we can do the open meetings right on Facebook, kind of like what we're doing with DrydenWire and with the Kirk and Bill show. We just stream it live, so it's public. Mm-hmm. Closed session, we shut the public part off and then come back into open session. Public comments, we're still trying to figure that out. We want to hear from the public.
I mean, you really, you don't actually want to hear from the public, but you have to hear from the public.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. One of the big things that I started when I became an alderman was trying to stream as much of the meetings live. And it's really hard to do when you're up in the front panel and you're talking. And so I would rely on visitors or guests in the audience to stream the meetings. Mm-hmm. But as mayor, that will be a high priority to make sure that all of the meetings are streamed live.
It just makes sense.
I think it's really important. And it's 2020. There's no reason not to be.
It should have been done 3 years ago. I mean, come on. And that's one nice thing or positive, and all of our guests seem to be talking about that this has kind of forced us to have to do different things. Maybe mm-hmm. I wouldn't necessarily say innovative things, but just have to adjust. And a lot of them are going, man, we should have done this a long time ago. And it's right. So that's the interesting part of this. So whether you're on the city council, which you are, or you're going to be the next mayor, what is the thing that in 3 months from now, whenever the pandemic is finished, and whether you're still on city council or whether you are the mayor, what are you looking at right now that in 3 years from now, we don't want to be in another position going, what we should have done 3 years ago? I think it's so important to always look at, what's the vision? How can we kind of set ourselves aside? How can we use either technology or do something that's innovative? Have those conversations been had in the city council level? And if so, what were those?
Yeah, we at a city council level have not had an opportunity to discuss a lot of that, but there's a number of things that I think are really important. One is having the discussions with small businesses and consulting them on how to protect their business and how to be the weird person or weird business out there. For many years, I taught Dave Ramsey, and Dave Ramsey is a financial guru from Tennessee. And he told people for the last 20 or 30 years that they should get out of debt, cut up their credit cards, and have 6 months savings in a mutual fund so that they're able to access it in the case of an emergency. Mm-hmm. And people, when I would do these classes and teach this course, would find every reason in the book why they should never have to do that. They are living for today, and they could never get rid of their four-wheeler or their RV or whatever because it's all about me. And so here we are now, and he's kind of now sitting up a little higher because everybody wishes that they had done that. And when I was still working down in the cities, I was your typical newlywed and, had a lot of student loan, had a lot of credit card debt, and invited my wife to help me pay for that. and then she introduced me to Dave. And Dave Ramsey and I and her paid off $20,000 by having extra jobs and doing all kinds of stuff. So in 2 years, we paid off all our credit cards. Right now, the only debt we have is our home. and we're taking the extra money and we're trying to invest it into the stock market, which is scary. But the 30-year run is that while the stock market does this, it always continues to climb. And so, talk to a financial advisor. Don't freak out over this or any other crash. Things over the long haul, look long term. But people right now need to, in their business and in their personal lives, look at ways to cut expenses, look at ways to prepare for this, because this will likely happen, hopefully not at this level, but there's going to be other things that are going to be stressful on our economy and in our businesses. And use technology. Talk to someone like me to find out how you can use technology to step up the game, to really put forth some stopgaps in place so that if this happens, you're not trying to figure out an app to order online and deliver food. Those are things that could have been implemented quite a while ago, and now there's a lot of restaurants who are really good at it and they've figured it out. And moving forward, they'll probably keep that service. Mm-hmm. Hardware stores that are saying, hey, we will deliver, because right now they have to, otherwise they won't have clients. But in the future, I'm sure that Bill's Ace Hardware in Osceola is going to continue to have curbside pickup and delivery because people now expect it, and it's a great service.
Yeah.
It's going to be a great service for them.
Yeah, a lot of these things that we're having to adjust to and start doing, again, talking about all the guests that we've had on, a lot of them have said, actually every one of them, just to different levels of degrees, we're probably going to implement a lot of these things or keep these things going forward. Maybe not as much as we have to do right now, but there's a lot of things that we're doing now that we're going to continue. Kirk, what else do you want to talk about that we haven't had a chance to discuss?
Well, I want to go back to that last question just a little bit and talk about the local hospitals, which are doing a fantastic job. And I want to throw out there, as a first responder, as someone who takes patients to the hospital many times, I want to just acknowledge my friends that are ambulance, paramedics, EMTs that I work with, the law enforcement, the nurses and doctors and staff, other firefighters. These are the frontline people who are not just essential, but they are incredibly irreplaceable. And they are doing the hard work right now. And so I just want to say thank you to them for everything that they are doing. But beyond that, I think that we need to look at this, and as a community of first responders and EMTs and all those different types, look at it and say, how can we be better prepared for this? Because our community is stepping up. There's a lot of individuals who have been sewing like crazy and making masks for the hospital, for their staff. They're giving them out to the community. And I just don't think that that's something that we should ever have to do as a hospital doctor. Should never have to use the same mask all day long. And so hopefully we can figure out ways to not only stockpile the national stockpile of PPE, but also at a local level, figure out a way to make sure that this never happens again. And the hospital is doing everything they can. They're doing a beautiful job. You can drive up the road from my office, and they've got tents set up where people can drive through and get tests for the flu and strep tests and get evaluated. But there's not a lot of COVID-19 tests that are happening, and luckily the ones that are have all been negative.
In Polk County.
To reopen our doors in our business, we need to know who's sick and if we are safe to do that. And as a business owner and as a person who is potentially going to be the mayor of a city that is really hoping business will be a catalyst to success, we need to get our economy going, and we need to get our businesses reopened. How we do that is still a discussion point. But I think we need to start looking at how we're going to implement wearing masks and make that a normal part of our day until this is over, so that people can get back to work.
Yeah. Hopefully that's going to be ending soon. I've seen a lot of news stories or reports that even though the deaths are going up, but it seems like the safer at homes or just the social distancing, so not just specifically Wisconsin, but just nationwide, that even though the deaths are going up, but it seems like it is we may be getting close to the precipice where we might be going on the downside of the slope.
Yeah.
Which is good because holy cow, these small businesses, man, they're just getting killed, buddy. Wait, when's your next Kirk and Bill show?
We're trying to get a guest scheduled. Tomorrow is a potential because we're not an official. We don't have an official schedule. It's kind of as we can get people to say yes to come on to ours.
Sure.
But potentially tomorrow there will be a show. Tomorrow's my birthday, so we might have a birthday.
Hey, happy birthday, buddy!
Celebrate the election type of thing. But I think that there's a lot of things that we need to talk about as a business community. Bill is the former president, now vice president of the Chamber of Commerce, and so I want to build a partnership with the Chamber of Commerce and as a city leader, and look at ways that we can assist the business community to really build a strong front for moving forward. I think it's also interesting. I don't know how long this show is, Ben. We could talk all day, but
yeah.
One of the things that I really appreciate about our neighbor to the Southwest, South Dakota, I watched a video of their governor basically talking about how, as a governor, she is doing things different than a lot of other governors, because their city or their state is different than a lot of governors. They're not implementing all the same things that New York are doing, or California, because they don't have the population density and the danger zone. And she's really giving the citizens a lot of personal responsibility, which is an amazing concept, right? That we would implore people to be responsible for their own safety. And so I really appreciate a lot of what she said. And basically she is looking at it and saying, hey, in some of these small towns, we don't have to bottle up and put the hammer down on them and say, you can't do things because you're already social distancing. Maybe you live a mile away from each other. Mm-hmm. We live in rural Wisconsin. We're a city, but we have 2,000 people in our city, 2,500 people. We are not Madison. We're not seeing any cases. And so, the governor it would be great if he would have different policies for different areas
and I don't know,
that are less susceptible.
I know. And I don't even know I'm not even sure if that's possible. I have no clue. But I know that has been brought up by many people. Mm-hmm. But this is actually not just this. This has always been the thing. We're making policy for Wisconsin because of, Madison, Milwaukee. This has been what people have said about politics in Wisconsin for a very long time. That we're not getting either the love up here or the north of 8 thing or just in our area. But this is just another example, I think anyway, that what works for the bulk of the citizens of Wisconsin, which most of those don't live in our area, it doesn't work for our area. And we are a very, what's the positive way to say this? Wish Chris Fitzgerald was here. He could put a positive spin on this. Economically challenged? No, that's not really positive. But we're poor, right? It's just not that, it's not a booming economy in northwest Wisconsin. But we're okay with that, I think, for the most part. Because I think whether you're a Democrat, a Republican, or nothing, there's a little bit of libertarian in all of us in northwest Wisconsin. This idea of just kind of, we can kind of do some kind of, and to a certain degree, and maybe I'm sure some people would say absolutely not libertarian in any way. And I don't mean it in the sense of that actually libertarian, but just, that what works down there doesn't necessarily work up here. And I get the greater good, and I get that for Wisconsin, you're going to have to make a decision like the governor or legislature, you're going to have to make a decision for the entire state. But man, I don't know. These businesses around here are just getting killed. And I'm glad we were smart about it. I'm glad that we were, that Evers took this seriously more than other states. But there's some things, especially when you just look at our area, I don't know. Yeah. A lot of businesses are going to fail from this.
We live in an area where tourism is a major component of our economy, and we have a lot of amazing lakes that people go to and spend their summers at. And right now we're looking at the question of are we going to open up a lot of the services and things that are typical that draw thousands and thousands of people in, like our summer festivals, our parades, our music festivals. Those are things that every municipality right now are having that discussion or will be having that discussion. Can we risk doing this, and how do we make it safer and keep that economy going? And from a legislative standpoint, the legislators are going to have those tough conversations. I think that this is a very serious thing. I don't make light of it at all. I take precautions, but I think we need to be able to save our economy, and how we do that. That's a conversation that's going to have to be made. And will be made.
And it's a fluid situation, and by the end of the day, something else will have come up about what we're going to be doing. So we will obviously keep people informed. Kirk, thanks so much, man, for coming on.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can't wait to watch your show tomorrow. What time is that going to air, you think?
We typically are putting out shows at 1:30, and I know that doesn't jive with your schedule because you watch those press briefings.
The media thing. Well, Mondays and Fridays. It used to be Monday, Tuesdays, and Fridays, but I think it just says Mondays and Fridays now. But at 1:30, that's why I haven't been able to watch some of them, because I'm watching, Evers and
well, the reason that we do that is because Bill is a stay-at-home dad now.
Yeah, boy.
because of his wife's job as a doctor. And so he's at home, and that's nap time. So when we can go live is when his kids aren't on his lap in the show with us. So it's out of convenience. Hopefully at some point we'll be able to institute some changes and we'll get better schedule. But until that happens, we're just excited to be able to share some interesting conversations.
Awesome. Well, the ones I've seen, I've loved them. So, Kirk, thanks so very much.
Yeah, you bet.
All right. Special thank you to today's guest, small business owner, alderman, firefighter, and first responder Kirk Anderson. And thank all of you for watching. We'll see you right back here tomorrow morning at 8:30 a.m. live with Democratic candidate in the 7th Congressional District race, Tricia Zunker. So until then, stay safe, keep your social distance, stay on the sofa, and have a blessed day.